This giant kebab is made from mushrooms, and not just like one kind of mushroom, like a bunch of different mushrooms, and it's wildly good. I mean, look at all of these mushrooms. By the way, just eat cherries. If you don't get it, watch my shorts, link in the description for this shirt. Now, I got some of these mushrooms from my local Asian market. I got some of them from the grocery store, but then like the big pretty ones, like the ones right here, these big oyster mushrooms, I got those from Florida Shroom King. Check him out on Instagram. I love this guy. He's like a local mushroom grower, and every city deserves somebody like him. So to start off with this Avant Garde vegan inspired recipe, we're gonna take some of our oyster mushrooms that we bought from the grocery store, and we're just gonna press them between two hot cast iron pans. Now you see I have this bottom pan extremely hot. The top pan's pretty hot too. Just go ahead and give them a press, and then just using a towel, press down and actually firmly press the mushrooms. What we're trying to do is get rid of as much moisture out of these mushrooms as possible, and then also give them like a nice sear. And when you press these mushrooms, it kind of forms like a steak. Now that is inspired by Derek Sarno from Wicked Eats. If you haven't seen him do that, it's an incredible technique that's really inspired a lot of my different mushroom recipes. Now we just need to start prepping our king oyster mushrooms. We're going to be doing these just a little bit different than we did the other oyster mushrooms. The king oyster mushroom, it's a different beast. It's a completely different animal. So we want to prep them very similarly how I've made king oyster mushroom bacon in the past. We're just going to be cutting them into planks. Now, as soon as we're done pressing all of our other mushrooms, we're going to start pressing the oyster mushrooms. We're going to press them just the same. Just throw the planks in the pan and just press them. We just need to remove all the water. Now, this is the oyster mushrooms that I got from Florida Shroom King. These are specifically elm oyster, ELM, elm oyster mushrooms. They have like a very thin, long ear to them. They're really great mushrooms. They're really good. They're really tasty, and they have like a ton of texture to them. And these are actually going to work really fantastic for this recipe. I wish I had like 5 boxes of this. I think I bought like 2 pounds. I probably needed like 10 pounds for this recipe. So while we're pressing all of these mushrooms, I'm gonna make a seasoning just to kind of season all the mushrooms before they go on the large kebab. So this is gonna be like a Mediterranean inspired recipe. So we just need to start with a load of fresh cracked ground black pepper, and then an equal amount of ground allspice, an equal amount of garlic powder. Now at this point, everything else is gonna be about 1/3 of an amount. So we're gonna do about 1/3 of the amount of cinnamon, cardamom, chili powder, and dried oregano. Now you can salt as much as you like, but I'm just gonna add a hefty amount of salt to the seasoning, along with some of my favorite MSG. Now go scour your junk drawer for your miniature size whisk, and let's whisk that up. Give it a taste and make sure you got the magic right, and okay, it's seasoning. It's needs to be cooked on there, but it's good. It's really good. That cinnamon gets you a little bit. So at this point, we're cooking our planks. I have some of the mushrooms lightly seasoned. We're just going to continue seasoning as we go. We just want to make sure that seasoning hits the mushrooms right after it gets off of the pan. So that way they stay a little bit moist off the pan, and that seasoning is going to get kind of soaked in there and get almost glued to it. Now, speaking of glue, let's make a food glue, sort of. I'm gonna make a fat mixture that's very similar to what's in the Beyond and Impossible meat. That's also gonna help glue these mushrooms together when they're on the rotisserie. And this glue is also gonna have some flavor to it. We want anywhere where we can add some extra flavor, I'm gonna add it. So we're gonna start with about 2 cups of water and 1 tablespoon of our mushroom extract seasoning. I love this stuff. I'll leave a link in the description below. You have to try it, because once you do, you'll literally put it on everything. We're also gonna need our seasoning mixture that we made, because I'm just gonna throw in a little extra seasoning here. And then we're going to add another one of my favorite ingredients, methyl cellulose. Methyl cellulose is simply just cellulose. Cellulose is a part of pretty much every living plant and organism on the friggin' planet. It's nothing to be afraid of. I know every time I say that, there's somebody in the comment section that writes poison, but it's you probably have methyl cellulose every single day. If you've ever had a gel capsule in a medication, you're eating methyl cellulose. It's very common. Okay, so I'm sorry, that rant is over, but as soon as I get this friggin' lid on this, okay, at this point, the lid is on. We're done about methyl cellulose. We're going to start the blender up, which is going to mix this methyl cellulose into a thick paste. Now we're going to drizzle in 2 types of oil. We're going to start with coconut oil, and we're going to drizzle in slow, because we need this to emulsify. Once the coconut oil is completely drizzled in, now we're going to quickly drizzle in some olive oil. Now we're going to use a little bit more olive oil. We did about 1/4 cup of coconut oil. We're going to do probably closer towards 1/2 cup of olive oil. Now I'm making this mixture a little thicker than what I normally would for my vegan burgers. This is going to come out, thicker than mayo, not as thick as Play-Doh. I know that's a weird thing, but probably somewhere in between. And don't worry, we're not using all of this. We just needed to make enough of it so that way it would emulsify together. So everything's almost ready to go at this point. I need to go get some charcoal and get gas in Monica's car. This is perfect time for today's sponsor.
So Monica and I are pretty lucky. We both work from home and we both drive pretty fuel-efficient cars. So the gas prices hasn't hit us that much, but I do know it's hitting people pretty dramatically. My dad drives a Jeep and he drives a ton. They were just in town and I was telling him, Dad, maybe you should use a credit card to save a little bit of money on your gas. Get a cash back or something. And that's when he told me that he uses the app Upside, and he's gotten back hundreds of dollars on gas.
And it's not just gas. To get started, download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play. Use my promo code SauceStache and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, just claim whatever offer you're buying on Upside. Now, when I got to the gas station to fill up my car, my buddy was there, and when he asked what I was doing, he was filling up with Upside too.
I've been using it for probably about 3 months now, and I've gotten $96.19 back so far.
And all you do is just cash out at any time to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Upside users are earning more than $1 million every week. That's probably why they have a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. So gang, use my promo code SauceStache and get $5 or more cash back on your next purchase of $10 or more. Use Upside, you are going to love it. So the mushrooms are done, everything is ready to go. Now let's go ahead and get these cooking. So I'm actually going to be using a fire pit. This is a tiki fire pit that Monica bought me for Christmas, which I freaking love this thing. It's like the best fire pit I've ever had. I mean, not like a fire pit ad, but I mean, wow, this thing it lights up like crazy. That's the reason why I want to use this, because the way that a smokeless fire pit works is almost like a jet engine. So it just creates this massive draft of heat. And I've wanted to cook on it ever since I got it. So I bought this cool rotisserie thing for my grill, but it actually fits perfect on the fire pit. So I'm going to be using some small red oak chunks along with some natural wood charcoal. I think that's going to work the best to give this a really nice flavor. So now let's go ahead and load up the rotisserie here. Now this thing is huge. When I ordered this, I didn't think it was going to be this big. I mean, this is like it's a sword. I mean, you could really do some damage with this, but really it's still going to work. I was a little nervous that the mushrooms would end up just, they wouldn't be able to hang on to something that big. I was really hoping for like a smaller skewer, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to use a little chopstick to kind of like thread them through. So we're just going to start with the king oyster mushrooms and just start layering them up. Really, I'm going to go back and forth between all of the different mushrooms, and then in between each mushroom, I'm going to add a little bit of that like methylcellulose fat glue mixture that I made. Now, I'll be honest, this didn't layer up the way that I thought it would, but it still came out pretty awesome. Like I was really hoping for more of like a combined kind of like, you know, skewer here, but really it still worked out, and I'm pretty happy with it. So once it's all done, I mean, take a look at this thing. It's just a monster. We already got the fire going. The fire's roaring hot. Let's get it on the rotisserie and get this thing cooking. Ugh, I mean, I just love this part. Everything's looking so good. So at this point, I just want to make something to like baste it with. So I'm going to use some vegan butter, some of the seasoning that we had, and then some brown sugar. I want something to kind of like caramelize on here and give it just a touch of sweetness. Everything's pretty savory and salty here, so I just want to give it a little bit of sweetness to it. And I mean, this is coming out so good. So at this point, I do want to make, because we're going to make this into like a sandwich, I'm going to make like a vegan tzatziki. Now this is really simple. You just need a cucumber, and I'm going to shred the cucumber up, wrap it in some paper towels, and squeeze the living heck out of it. Take out all of your aggression on it. You want to get out all of the moisture, because if there's any moisture left in it, then it's just not going to come out right. Now we're going to be using some vegan Greek yogurt, which is just going to be this So Delicious stuff, which honestly, the name is perfect because it's so delicious. Now we just need a little bit of lemon juice, some olive oil, a little bit of garlic powder. We're going to do some sea salt, and then I'm going to chop up some fresh dill. That's going to really bring this up to the next level. Mix that up. That's really all this is. We're going to toss it in the fridge until our sandwich is ready, like right until that last moment. It doesn't need to sit that long. This stuff works out great when it's like fresh. So at this point, I think my mushrooms are done. We're going to pull them up. I mean, I had to take a picture. I was so excited. So now we're just going to shave these off and start making our sandwich. I mean, just look at the way these mushrooms are coming off. I mean, they're so friggin' meaty. It's unbelievable. So now we just have our hot pita, a little bit of our tzatziki, well, a lot of our tzatziki, a ton of our mushrooms. We're going to top this some red onion, a little bit of tomato. I'm so mad that I didn't save any extra cucumber, but that's okay. Top it with some lettuce, and we're just going to wrap this up just how it is. And I mean, this is just going to be so friggin' good. Now we just need to make a second one of these monsters, and let's see what Monica has to say. I am so excited about this.
This is awesome. I love this.
So this is unbelievable.
Way good. Smoky taste,
Definitely.
meaty taste.
Yeah, it's smoky, it's meaty, it has, a meaty bite to it. It's got a good crunch. It tastes like a gyro. Might be a gyro,
Yeah, I mean, it has all of the flavors. It has, like, the seasonings. It has all of that. But really, the mushroom kebab just works.
So my final thoughts about this is awesome. I mean, I know I did mine completely different than Avant Garde Vegan. I wasn't trying to see like if his was any good because honestly, his looked amazing and I bet you it was incredible. I just had a different idea and I'm really glad I tried it because this came out so good. I mean, I know next time I do like a party or something, this is going to be one of the tricks at the party.